Hello, everyone. Welcome back to End Zone Scoop. I'm your host, Liz, and here are my co-hosts, Dayna and Shona. Now, Shona's changed her Twitter name lately, and I keep forgetting that there's an underscore in it. So she's not been tagged in any of our tweets lately.
Oh, it's so annoying because I just wanted to change it to Shona Skinner 4, but somebody already had it, and I was like, who else has my name in the world, right? That is stealing my
It's the
Twitter
number
handle.
4, so it means there's already a 1, 2, and a 3.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, what about 3? I was like, no, there's still Shona Skinner 3 as well. I was like, oh, I had to put an underscore in it.
So note to self, that's for me to update. How are we both?
Good.
Yeah.
It was a busy week and weekend. Yes, everyone's getting ready. So much going on.
Yeah, like I actually can't believe that we are near the end already.
Right. Right.
Scary.
It's been a little crazy.
It's gone really fast this season, I feel. Really fast.
Yeah.
It has, yeah. But it's weird. I'd say the season itself was just happily going along, and then this playoffs is just gone and done super fast.
And Pete's gone.
He is gone. Well, the last show we hadn't talked about that, right?
Oh my god, yeah, we hadn't.
Oh, we did speak about it, thinking that
did we?
He's here next season, and then obviously they let him go like 2 days later.
That was really sad.
You've got great analysis, girls.
Well, I don't really truly think anyone saw that coming with Pete Carroll. I had a lot of people reach out to me and say that, that was very surprising since Seattle had really kind of held their own since trading their franchise quarterback in Russell Wilson. Yeah. And so I think that a lot of people just assumed that Pete would play until he was, coach until he's done, and that they would roll with that. It seems to be that there was a different plan in place. And it was really interesting to see those back-to-back press conferences. Pete's press conference, which was very positive and upbeat and, ready to go. And then John Snyder came in and he's like, I don't know, I guess I should hire a coach. He just is so laid back. They're so different. And so I got the impression, and this could just be me, but from a few other things that I've read, that that this was coming, and we knew it was coming. We just didn't realize it would be now. And we thought it might be more on Pete's terms, but this team is really ready to try something new and different, just as the Patriots were, And so I think both of those coaches going at the same time was really surprising, because it happened within just a day of each other. And then I think that there's that youth movement going on in the NFL right now where people really are focused on new and innovative. And I think that's going to bite some teams in the butt, but that's a whole different conversation. So interesting things afoot in the coaching world for sure.
It will be quite cool because he's not fully leaving, is he? He's going to stay on as in an advisory. Well, I think he might go back to the college. I got a feeling a college team could come in for him. Like I think he would go back to college.
I don't know that he would. Here's the thing with college is that the recruiting aspect of it is a lot of travel. And granted, with the NFL, you travel too, but you have a very set routine. College is a little different. And the college landscape has really changed in the last 14 years, where before you went into someone's living room, you caught the kid to come and he stayed until he went to the draft. It's not how it works anymore. With NIL money coming in, it has turned into a complete business. And so I don't know how Pete would do in that situation. I don't know, but maybe his experience in the NFL would have prepared him for that. It could be, but it's just a lot more legwork when you're doing a college level coaching. But I do think he will be in an advisory position at some point. Doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. His son Brennan is now coming back to the University of Washington as the offensive coordinator. And so his family will be here. I mean, they've had pictures of him at local high school basketball games. I mean, so it's kind of interesting. But I do think that it is a very different situation than it is with Bill Belichick in New England. In New England, and again, I'm going to tell everyone to please forgive my lighting today. I'm so sorry. It's weird. I feel like you can't see half my face. But they're very different situation in New England, just because that was cut, dry, done, you're out. Like there didn't seem to be any conversation, that we heard anyway, obviously. But I do think that immediately Bill Belichick is interviewing for other teams, and that's not where Pete's at. So it'll be interesting to kind of see. I said this on another podcast too, but it was also interesting to see the two differences between the social media from the teams So with Bill Belichick, it was a thank you, you're the greatest, and we're moving on. And Pete, it was every day another tribute video, and you're God's gift to the planet, and we're gonna miss you so much, and we respect and love you, and you need a statue, blah 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 blah.
They had a hashtag as well. I can't even remember what it was now.
Yeah,
but it was sort of a thank you, Pete, but it was more something different like that. And I was just like, you guys are really going home on this when it's basically like your decision to
But I think I just feel like it's a little different. I just think it's different. So anyway, it's interesting with those two kind of legendary coaches leaving, and then interview after interview after interview. I think Seattle is at 8 or 9 interviews now. They're doing their second round. New England, opposite. Jared Mayo, you got a job. You're in. Apparently it was written into his contract, which is another entire thing. But I think that aside from the games, which have been pretty good games this last weekend, this coaching situation has been sitting there, and so I think that it's just a very busy time in the NFL right now.
Definitely, it
was a fun
wild time for sure.
I love January in the NFL because January is a month that's always incredible, but you've still got exciting things like new coaches getting hired, or a team starting to move on, or and then you still have the playoff games. So and then it's on the lead up to the Super Bowl. So I find it quite an exciting time.
I do too. One of the guys I do Real Hot Talk with, Jeff, this is his favorite time of year for football. He'd take this and the recruiting and the draft and all of that over the regular season anytime. So
love that.
Yeah. I think when it's not predictable teams, for example, in like the playoffs, and that's when it's really exciting. So I think especially now, this has been pretty awesome, to be honest. I mean, the fact that Texans had made it through is something I'd not seen for as long as I've been a fan. So, I mean, let's start there. Obviously, the Ravens beat the Texans 34-10. Anything in particular from that game that you would want to highlight?
I think CJ Stroud is a great talent, by the way, and I think he is going to continue progressing in the NFL. Like, I think he's come into a team that were so bad last season. Let's not forget how bad they were, and they and obviously they flipped it so much by getting in this, drafting this rookie quarterback and building around him. And we always say you should build around a rookie quarterback to make sure that you can sustain that sort of a trajectory into making the playoffs, and hopefully build for next season as well. They don't want to just play 2 games in the playoffs. They want to play more. That's obviously where their target is. So I feel like you kind of have to. He's such a good kid as well. Like you can see, like in the post match, like the press conferences, he just loves football, and you can tell he is enjoying playing there. And it did look like he struggled at the start of the season, but I feel like he's totally came into his own now.
I agree. Some of his attitude, not his play in any way, shape, or form, but his attitude about these playoff games, winning one, losing the next one, reminded me so much of Russell Wilson in 2012, where he was like, holy crap, we got this far, and I can't wait for next year. Because you could get that kind of feeling from him, from his coach. They have done such a great job putting that team together, and they're only going to go up from here at this point. So I think that what we're seeing is the beginning of another powerhouse. Now, whether that takes another year or 2, we don't know. But I do think with the Texans, those fans should be jacked. They should see they're working their way up a hill. So that is amazing. I think what we did see though was a little bit of rust from the Ravens. I think that the Ravens, that first half really kind of showed what that week off, where it's very handy for injuries, it's not always the best for momentum. I think that you saw them have to kind of settle in. And I don't know if you've heard about that halftime speech from Lamar Jackson, but he went in and he's like, are you kidding? We're not going to let this happen. Go. And they did. He challenged the defense, and they just looked as unbeatable as any team is this entire weekend. I think every other team showed ways to beat them. I don't know that the Ravens did. And so I'm very excited for this next upcoming game. But I was really happy that the Texans came in there and really, showed out to begin with, and showed their potential, because I think that that's just good for the NFL, right? Like, we're going to talk about the Chiefs, and I'm so sick of the Chiefs, and I'm going to tell you all about it here in a little bit, but it's like
fully on that train with you, Dayna.
What?
Fully on that. I'm sick of the Chiefs.
I know. And we'll talk about it. And it's not the Chiefs' fault. We're not, but It's not. But at the same time, it just gives you a boost. It's like, oh, there's going to be another new team. That's good. And that's exciting. When you like the sport of football, and when you like the league to have some parity, that's really important. So this was a great game. But again, I think it just showed the Ravens' dominance, in my opinion.
And the next up was 49ers beat the Packers. Now, I needed my beauty sleep for that one, but so I didn't see it. However, have seen some of the highlights, and I think it's interesting. I mean, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, Jordan Love, just two interesting kind of players in the sense of Jordan Love's happily found his feet, I feel, and he'll do great in other seasons to come. Now, one question that I've seen others talk about is Brock Purdy. Is he a good quarterback on his own, or is it because he's got such a good team around him? I'd love to know what you guys think of that.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Well, I mean, his stats from against the Packers are ones that he's not going to want to read himself. I think he posted a -6 completion percentage over expectation, which obviously is quite a concern heading into the championship game. But I feel like they showed what the Ravens kind of showed, like they showed the rust of having the week off. But yeah, I'm not sure how I would say. I don't know if Brock Purdy is the answer. I feel like there's just so much talented players in that 49ers team that he gets off with it, is my opinion.
So here's the thing. I love that he causes such a controversy, because the only reason why he causes this controversy is because of the hype the media gives him, right? Yeah. He plays good games. And when his team is rolling, he does very, very well. He went 0-3 when he lost Trent Williams. I mean, that's a very important piece in the wheel, right? Like, we get it. I think what happened was the Brock Purdy hype got ahead of him instead of letting him just develop into who he is. And I'm not trying to defend him in any way, because he played a horrible game on Sunday. And I think what that showed, yes, they're like, oh my God, everyone, oh my God, Robert Griffin III, he was going off. He's like, oh, the Brock Purdy, doubters need to stop it. Really? What game did you watch? And he got murdered for it, I'm going to say. But here is the thing.
Although I did like his spat with Gruden on Twitter. That was,
oh my God, that's a whole show in itself. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was made up, and come to find out it's so real. I had no idea.
It was so real, because Gruden was like, I'm good with young quarterbacks. And he was like, what?
Don't get me started, Shanahan. But so here's the interesting thing for me too about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's doing exactly what's being asked of him, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that what we're going to see again is possibly something that happened similarly in Seattle. And I think Russell Wilson is whatever you want to call it, a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. But when you take those superstars away, when you don't have the defense that they have, the whole team suffers. And it's not Brock Purdy's fault. It's just the whole team, is not as good as it used to be. And so I think that he gets too much credit and too much blame. He's a fine quarterback. He does what's asked of him, but he is not going to be this, the savior of that team. So what was fascinating to me was what we saw was two different things with Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. Jordan Love on his way up, Brock Purdy just staying where he's at, because that's where he is. And I think that should be the conversation, not necessarily is Brock Purdy the greatest thing ever. No, he's not. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not any of those guys. So when I watched this game, I watched, again, the Niners team showing people ways to beat them. And the Green Bay, team showing that they don't need Aaron Rodgers. And that's very encouraging. Again, young teams, just like the Texans. We have someone new to cheer for, or someone new to be excited about in the entire league. That is not the same four teams that we've forever.
Like karma in like a beautiful bowl, isn't it? Like the Packers doing well in the Super in the playoffs when Rodgers is last and gone to the Jets. Like, I think he felt like he would leave and Jordan Love wasn't it, and it's just that's proved not to be the case. And he's so talented, you can see that, and he's a really likable guy. So it's just a completely different, I think it's going to be a different atmosphere completely around the Green Bay Packers now.
It's very interesting. So Lisa, who I do Our Chair Football podcast with, she goes to the Senior Bowl every year. And the year that Jordan Love was there, she's like, I'm obsessed with this kid. His football IQ is through the roof. Like, he is going to be it. And then they just let him sit, and was driving her insane. She knew. She called it from the get. She loved this kid. So it's like there were people who saw what he could do. But what do you do when he's sitting behind Aaron Rodgers? You know what I mean? So it's interesting. Yeah. It's going to be fun. San Francisco is in a really interesting spot. They have a lot to prove, even though they won with this next game. And they are going against a very different team in the championship game.
Definitely.
I'm so excited for the Lions. It's just a great story.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Really, really. I mean, I've loved them. I obviously chose Seahawks straight away, but there was always something about the Lions. I've really liked the Lions for a long, long time. You guys both know that. So it was really weird watching this matchup because I also like Baker Mayfield, don't you? Like, you guys know that. So every time Lions were on the field, I was like, go Lions! And then every time Baker Mayfield came on, I was like, go Baker! So it was like Lions versus Baker. It was ridiculous of me. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be for Baker and his side. It's just a shame because I feel like both him and, I was going to call him Jared Gosling from Ryan Gosling, Jared Goff. Think about them both. They've both kind of had teams where they've been messed around, never quite found their feet, I suppose. We're both number one picks, I think, and just haven't quite got it. Whereas I feel like Goff's found his feet with the Lions. I feel like Baker's hopefully found his feet with the Bucks. But obviously, it wasn't meant to be the Lions. I'm glad that they won. I feel like they really deserve it. I would love, love, love to see them go through, but I just don't know.
I mean, if they don't do it, they've already rewrote their history books because they've won playoff games for the first time since 1957. I was like, before my mom was even born. So like, that's exciting in itself, and I feel like. They can totally, it's like what we said about the Texans. I feel like they can totally build on it if they don't go progress in the championship game. And I feel like Jared Goff's has totally found himself up in Detroit. Like he's just loving life up there. You can just tell he's a much happier guy in with the Lions than he ever was in LA. It's the impression I kind of get.
So this game was really interesting because no one expected the Bucs to be there. Right. Yeah. That division was a disaster from the get. They kind of snuck in at the last minute and then they went in and played really well. Now, is that the fault of the Eagles? Because they fell apart.
What happened to the Eagles?
That's an hour-long show all by itself. I know. But, or was it that they were more talented than we were giving them credit for? I have a feeling it was more about the Eagles, and that's not to be disrespectful to the Bucs or Baker Mayfield. The right team won this game. The Lions are a better team. That's not to discount what Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and White and all of these guys did to get there and then gave them a game on top of it. It wasn't a walk in the park, Yeah. And I think that was really good. I have a feeling, I said this to a couple of people. I said, I think the Lions might have overlooked the Bucs a little bit. That was a bad idea at first. But so I think that's really interesting. But here's the thing. Both of these teams came out winners. Let's be honest. The Lions, they're going to the championship game. There's I think a good solid chance that they go to the Super Bowl. And the Bucs, Baker Mayfield proved that he can be a starting quarterback in this league. And that was necessary from him. I think the Bucs keep him. I think that they give him another year or so to really see how they can build around him. Mm-hmm. His contract is very team friendly for them. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you? It's much the same situation Geno's in right now in Seattle. So I think that Baker, outperformed what was expected of him, and they believe in him, and I love that. So even though they lost, they won. They're in a much better position than they were before. Yeah. This Detroit Lions team, here's the thing. This is a team that is so reminiscent, and you girls are not old enough to remember this, but of what I call 80s Raider football, the 1980s Raider football. They were mean. They would, I won't say all the players might try to hurt you, but they were very aggressive. I see you, Howie Long. That's all I'm saying. But here's the thing. is that they have this dominance and they're like, I dare you to try and beat us. And I love that attitude. It's my favorite attitude in football. I love that. It just screams that division. It screams Mike Tomlin to me, even though he's in the Steelers. I love that about it. And so I think that San Francisco is going to have their hands full because Goff, he is on a roll. And I think that it was so, poetic that their head coach after said, Jared Goff, after their last one, you belong in Detroit. And I think that meant a lot to him because he was completely discarded by McVay, right? And so I think that will be very interesting. And to see how he really stepped up to that. And I really, really like that. Now, they have had some injuries. And out of nowhere, they signed Zach Ertz today. Tight end was with the Cardinals. They cut him. The Lions signed him. They're like, come on. We'll see what you can do, Mr. Veteran. Well, the interesting thing is Zach Ertz played San Francisco twice this year. So maybe that'll be, or did he actually play? He might have been hurt. He gets hurt a lot. But anyway, so we'll see. But I think that that's going to be helpful to them for a lot of reasons. Just even the veteran leadership, I think, would be good. But so I'm really excited for the Lions' chances here against San Francisco. I think when the Bucs were doing really well, I'm like, I won't even watch if it's San Francisco and Tampa Bay because San Francisco is going to eat them for dinner. But now it's going to be good. I hope God it's good. It should be interesting. As Peter says in comments that you just posted, also if Debo doesn't play, the Lions' chances increase more. And he's only 50-50. He hurt his shoulder in the game. We'll see what happens there. He is a safety net for Brock Purdy. So, yeah. But I do think that game, they both came out winners and in the positive column there.
Yeah, 100%.
And then the game that I think we don't really want to talk about. Chiefs obviously beat the Bills 27-24, I think. I'm just so sad. Like, I'm over. Chiefs at the minute are basically the Patriots that I hated years ago. And I actually like the Chiefs. I think they're an exciting team, but I didn't want them still be in the first of all, I wanted the Dolphins to win that kind of first one, so that didn't happen. Then the Bills didn't happen, so it's just like whatever. Clearly they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, whatever. It's going to be one of those again. I hope not, but I feel like it's probably going to happen.
You watched the Ravens game, right? That's
I feel like they're not that exciting this season though. Like sometimes like you can watch the Chiefs and you're like, God, they were really exciting. Like look at the connections like Mahomes got with his like tight ends or with his receivers. I don't feel the same this year. I feel like they're scraping by with wins sometimes, but they're still being really arrogant about it. Like there's no like, oh, like, we almost lost there. It's like, oh yeah, we're the Chiefs. We still did it. And like, I feel like obviously they've played the Bills now 3 times and Mahomes has won 3 times in the
playoffs
matchup. Yeah. And the wave to me, I was just like, you guys are just such dickheads. Like I was like, why do you need to be such knobs about it? And like, honestly, I feel like if Taylor Swift like breathes the same air as us, we should give her a gold medal or something, like a bloody veterans honor. Like it's just this whole thing around the Chiefs right now this season is just so irritating, in my opinion.
So here's the thing. If that was Seattle and they had just beaten the 49ers, you want them to wave at their fans, right?
Yeah.
We have to remember that this is a rivalry. And it's, people talk about the Bengals and the Chiefs. No, this is, and honestly, let's be blunt, the Chiefs kind of own the Bills in the playoffs. Now in the regular season, I think they've split it or even Mahomes is down a game, but in the playoffs, when it matters, they do own it. Now, I think that the Bills' injuries on defense was their dagger. They couldn't get past their injuries on linebacker. When you have that, you end up with Travis Kelce wide open in the end zone because they were at their 3rd and 4th levels there, guys. So that's a huge part of it. Now the Chiefs took a couple injuries too that could really impact this next game. So I think that's interesting. But here's what has happened with the Bills. The Bills, this was their chance. They knew it. They're crushed. And it kills me. Wide right. I don't know if you guys are old enough to understand or if you've read it. They lost a Super Bowl the same way when they went 4 times in a row. Wide right is just awful. And so I felt terrible for that kicker. At the same time, the Chiefs deserve credit. They are not the same team they have been the last few years. They have a lot more obstacles to overcome, and they still manage to do it. So they deserve all the credit for that. And Patrick Mahomes deserves the credit for that. Kelce finally showing up in a game. Where the hell has Travis Kelce been all season? And so he making that huge impact. That's huge. That's important. Unfortunately, what that does is feed the already complete and total oversaturation of the Chiefs. It is exactly what happened with the Patriots. The reason we hated the Patriots was not because Tom Brady, it was because they wouldn't shut up about Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, it's like when they talk about England not winning the cup for like 55 years or something, and you're like, I don't care. Like, you've not won it in that long. Like, stop talking about it.
Right. So for those of you guys who are listening and not watching, so Chris Lawton asked, do you think that we all inherently dislike successful, dominant teams in the moment, then end up looking back on them nostalgically sometimes, or does it depend on how dominant? I think that's a great question. In the moment, I think that it's not that they're, oh, I'm sorry. And then he said, if it hadn't been wide right, Belichick's defensive game plan for the Super Bowl wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. That's very fair. So, but here is the thing. It's not the Chiefs' fault that they're so good. Kudos to them for being so good. It is the media's fault for obsessing over it. And then this year is so much worse because of the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift thing. You have Chiefs fans who are sick of the Chiefs. And it's not because they don't love their team. It's because they're sick of this narrative by the media that it has to be constantly talked about. We all know that Patrick Mahomes has made it to the AFC Championship every year that he's been a starter. It doesn't need to be repeated 7,000 times on Twitter or on every single TV show. And I get it. There's only so much information. You have to fill content. And I get all that. This is what we do, right? But at the same time, that's not the Chiefs' fault. But they are ruining what should be somewhat of a joyful thing for even Chiefs fans. They're really burnt out. Here's the second thing. The other thing that I have about this is that it's boring. Right? It's boring. It's like, oh, the Chiefs made it again. Good for them. It's just like the Patriots. Oh, the Patriots made. Do you remember there was one year the Patriots didn't make the Super Bowl? I can't remember in their 20-year run. And it was like at the time the most watched game because everyone was like, finally, crap. We don't have the, you know what I mean? The Patriots. And they didn't even make it there, not win or lose or what have you. And so it was that's kind of where we're at. We're getting to that oversaturation. So where I do not feel bad for the Chiefs. I think that they are perfectly happy with what they've done. I'm sad that they're starting to be hated like the Patriots were due to no true fault of their own. It's just an oversaturation and it's boring. We want new, we want different. The whole point of the NFL is every team starts at zero and there's a chance. And then you see year after year, there's really not.
Yeah, and like I love Andy Reid. Like, I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL, and I feel like you can see that when he has his tactics and when he and everything in Super Bowls. Like, he's not won that many, but by being a rubbish coach. Like, you've got to appreciate that. But I just feel like it's like you said, it's just the same every time. It's like, oh, look, Patrick Mahomes does it again. Like, he should be MVP. I'm like, he shouldn't be MVP. There's other players that have been way better than Patrick Mahomes this season. Yep. And I feel like it's just thrust down your throat every year.
Yeah. It's so true. So, I mean, what do? We can celebrate how good they are and be excited for their fans. I texted a friend of mine yesterday after the game, and I said, congratulations, because she's a diehard Chiefs fan. And she's like, oh, thanks, I'm excited. But in the same text, but I feel terrible for Bills fans. And it's like, so even the Chiefs fans are starting to get used to it. And they're going to end up like the Patriots fans at some point who are miserable right now. So I do think that, it's just good for the Chiefs. Looking ahead at the next game, I don't know that they have the power to beat the Ravens. It's possible. I think that we're going to see why Lamar Jackson's going to be MVP of the year, of the NFL again this year. He's going to win that. I think that they're not playing at home, which didn't seem to matter so much in Buffalo. I totally get that, but I think this will be just a little bit of a different level. And so I think because those Chiefs fans are serious, they impact the game seriously, right? So I mean, all credit to them for that. But I don't know. I don't know that we'll see Kansas City in the Super Bowl. I think this is going to be probably their toughest test in the last few years.
I think with the Ravens as well, all plaudits do obviously go to Jackson, which is great. He's had a fantastic season, but I feel like it's how it all is working in the background as well. I feel like obviously you have, the head coach John Harbaugh, their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, they're all working together, and it seems like a cohesive unit rather than, oh, look, the defense is doing so well, but the offense is kind of just getting by. It's both. I feel like all three parts are working well, and that's why the Ravens, in my opinion, I really hope I'm not jinxing them because I really want them to get to the Super Bowl, have kind of gone under the radar. No one spoke about them, and people are starting to speak about them now.
Yeah,
but I feel like
really the last 3 or 4 games. Yeah,
they weren't just at the start of the season, and they were again talking about the Chiefs, the Eagles. Like that was the same sort of. I have no idea what happened. It's like they nosedived off a cliff. No. It's like they just jumped off the edge and thought YOLO. Like. But yeah, that was the position everyone was talking about, and nobody was really picking up on the Ravens. Or the Lions.
True. The Lions, it's so funny because you heard people being like, oh, they're going to get, they probably will win their division. And that was their ceiling, right?
Yeah.
People had them at, and we didn't see them going this far. I'm so glad I was wrong. I love that they're in it. My dream Super Bowl will be obviously the Lions and the Ravens. And that is no disrespect to the Chiefs. I will be perfectly happy if it's the Chiefs too. That's okay. I just need someone who can beat San Francisco. If that's over, I just need the Lions to win. And that is because we still can hold. That's the one thing Seattle can hold over their head right now. Super Bowl.
You didn't make it to the Super Bowl.
But I do think that these are going to be 2 really good games. I think we're in for kind of a treat coming up here this next weekend. I think that the hype will be deserved. I think that it'll be really good. I hope that all 4 teams show up. Sometimes one doesn't show up, and then it's like they lay an egg, and it's like, well, that was dumb. That should have been way better, But I think it's going to be super good. It's going to be the week between these games and the Super Bowl that if the Chiefs make it, we're going to get real tired of hearing about them. But right now, I'm still pretty excited about it all.
I might have to mute all NFL words and Chief words on Twitter.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's a really weird. Like my head and my heart definitely say it's Ravens for sure. That's gonna happen. And then head and heart Lions. So like my heart wants Lions to win, but like my head with the realistic scenario of I suppose their history is kind of 49ers. So out of the conference championship anyway, it should be interesting either way.
I just think we're going to see how those injuries for San Francisco line up, I think, but the Lions too. So, I mean, all teams are beat up by this time this year. The only interesting thing is the Ravens are getting Andrews back. And that is crazy. So that could be just huge for them.
Yeah,
so
have you seen that meme that people are putting around that like the Super Bowl is decided by the colors of
the sign? It's so funny though.
Purple and red.
There's a couple of teams that could have ended up being like could have been. It's never going to be. Could have been Vikings, Falcons. Like, do you know what I mean? There's a couple of teams it could have been.
It's quite funny though. It's quite funny.
Yeah, very coincidental. So no, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. And Chris Lawton put in comments, he says, I want the Lions to do better in their one NFC championship game appearance when they lost big to Washington 41-10, and it was 1991. Yeah. Yes, Chris, you were right. That was a long time ago, and they took a beat for sure. So let's hope they do better.
Absolutely.
No. Well, guys, I guess this is it. We just need to see how this weekend goes. It's all happening on Sunday. So I don't know what time this is for you, Dayna, but for us, it's 8 p.m. for Chiefs Ravens and then 11:30 p.m. for Lions 49ers. So it should be interesting. Yeah. I don't know if I can stay awake. I really want to, but I don't know if I can.
And you know what's so funny? I was tweeting during the Bills Chiefs game. I'm like, I don't even have a horse in this race, and I'm so stressed out. And it's like so funny because it's like these games don't even matter to me. I'm so focused on Seattle's coaching search right now, but it's just like still you can feel that anxiety from their own fans, and you're like, I'm sorry, and do it. You know what I mean? And so I told my husband, I said, I don't know. If these games are close, we might have to turn it off for a little bit.
Yeah, I have to do that. When games are getting too close, I'm like, no, I'll just put it off for a minute, and then I have to put it back.
I just need a breather. I always
I did that in the Super Bowl when we lost to the Patriots because obviously Kearse caught it, and I was like, I can't handle this.
God. So we are there with you, fans, whether our teams are or not. We are right there.
Yep.
So true.
Awesome. Well, we will be back in 2 weeks, so week of the Super Bowl. We will be previewing what the heck we think's about to happen, how it's all gone in the conference championships, and whatnot. So yeah, make sure to join us then. If you don't already subscribe, make sure you do. And yeah, until next time, thanks for joining us.